So it had been requested for a Starseed Origins Part 2 of the original, and I kind of wanted to take this video, do a Starseed Origins, but also in a different direction and take it down the route of blood type, going deeper into our soul's lineage through knowing what particular blood type you are and where it can be traced to. Now, some of this information is coming from a few different sources. It's been heavily researched. We're incorporating some of Alex Collier's information on his channeling and workings with the Andromedan race, his information on blood types, as well as some Flu Bruins, which I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, some of her information regarding blood types. And if you don't know your blood type, you're in my situation. I was told I was a certain blood type and then come to find out I was a different blood type. Then I definitely recommend picking up one of those blood kits. I got mine to find out my blood type and what it was exactly from Amazon. It was just $8. It's definitely, of course, one of the cheaper options. It worked for me, and from its reviews, it's also seemed to work for others, but of course, you can always have it done professionally, or at least done at one of the clinics where they're actually drawing their blood and you can pay them if you want something a little bit more concrete. So with that being said, let's go a little bit deeper into each specific blood type, as well as its unique contributions, soul lineage, origins, etc. I'm going to start off with its specific star systems that it's associated with, and then we'll just kind of go deeper from there to hopefully connect some dots and figure out, at least on a soul level, where we are coming from or where we are connected. Take what intuitively feels best to you and then leave what does not, of course. I'm going to start off with the negative Rus blood types. First and foremost to know about negative Rus is it 100% is not from Earth. And what I mean by that, it is your soul definitely does not come from Earth origins. You are a starseed, or you're from another star system. What makes it more rare in this specific case, with AB and B being the rarest. B negative is like 1% of the population, and AB is also 1% of the population. So B negative, you have connections to the star system Ursa Minor. A B negative, also rare with that 1% of the population, you have connections to Cygnus and Altar, those star systems. Now, one of the more interesting encounters that I personally ever had through, that state where you're in between a dream and awake, it was during that where I was taken out of my body, and it was definitely like the location, I didn't know where I was. It was foreign. All I knew was like I'm not at home where I'm supposed to be. And I saw beings of they were in like all white. Most of them had like shaved heads, but the feeling was the most significant part of the whole experience, and it was just a feeling of overwhelming peace and like harmony. You could tell that it was definitely something evolved, or something definitely not of this earth. When I asked, where was I? Now, keep in mind, prior to this experience, I had no knowledge. I had no idea what this star system was, but I saw the word CYUNS like vague. And I remember thinking, because this is just how my mind works, of like the duck. There's a duck called like the Cygnus duck. Anyways, so when I woke up, that's how I remembered it. And when I went to go look it up, there was a star system, Cygnus, and I knew without a doubt that's where I had been. So Cygnus in general, they're evolved. They're very much in tune with higher levels of consciousness, temples devoted to spiritual evolvement, spiritual growth. They're like that atypical like ego death, wearing that one just solid garment every day, you know, all day type of situation. They were definitely peaceful and evolved. Almost kind of like a training while you sleep, like a place where your soul can go for, if you want to say, like extracurricular activities. While you're sleeping, your soul can go there to evolve on the other planes. So keeping in alignment with the negative roost, we have a negative, which makes up about 6% of the population, and its primary star systems include Lyra, Vega, star systems Taurus, Altar, Sagittarius, Scorpius, and Ursa Major. Next, and our final blood type in the negative roost is O negative. Makes up 7% of the population, and its star system, soul, lineage, connections, and bloodlines include Andromeda, the star system Pegasus, Perseus, Perseus, Lyra, Cygnus, and Ursa Minor. So if you have O negative, it's safe to say you have some Andromedan origin, as well as some feline and some different lineages going on. Some of the beings that you will generally find that incarnate within these blood lineages are draconians. Generally always carry a negative roost. Always, I would say 100% of the time you can always find a draconian with a negative roost. Also, we have some insectoids. They can incarnate in both positive and negative, but you'll find them often as with a negative roost, as well as with the soul lineages, bloodlines of the Anunnaki, the tall whites, which are a mixture between Zeta Reptilius as well as humans. You can generally find them with a negative roost blood type. They also generally incarnate, or I should say you find them a lot like Dramatic and Nordic culture. And we'll also find some bird beings, generally from Sirius, also carrying that negative roost. So that's our negative roost, and let's move on to a positive roost. To start off, we have O positive, which bloodline origins come from Butes, Sagittarius, and a star system that we call Nuki. That's Nunki, which is a star within the Sagittarius star system. A positive, which makes up 36% of the population, has bloodline lineages to Butes, Ursa Minor, and Polaris. B positive, which makes up 9% of the population, bloodline lineage to Hercules and Vega. AB positive, which makes up 3% of the population, has a bloodline lineage to Ursa Minor. One of the interesting things right off the bat that O positive and A positive have is their connections to Butes, which has the star Arcturius. So it's safe to say that you more than likely have some Arcturian in your bloodline if you have that blood type. Going a little bit deeper into the A's in general, so this would be A positive and A negative. We find a lot of A's in Brazil and South America. Also, A's are to believe very sweet. Also, the way that their mind works with it, very scientific. They have that ability to see into things. It's very cat-like in ways in which it can see into the dimension. Definitely go in alignment with the seer. We're on the topic of feline souls. Lyrans in general, you find a lot of them incarnate in A bloodlines, also B blood, with the A negative and the B negative being the sooner descendant, just for how it's kind of gone down the line. They have a connection to Sirius as well as the bird being. It's also believed A's have a stronger connection to the Fae or the other side regarding elves, mermaids, pixies, those beings. Now, when I was doing this research, one of the interesting things that I found with the beings, the bloodline of the A's, and their connection to the fairy realm. Now, okay, let me let me move it back just a little bit. There was a lady, she used to channel the fairy realm. She had credibility, so, and one of the particular groups that she would channel was the Elves of Flynn. And they would mention that who they would worship, because that was one of the questions that she brought up, you know, like just like we have religions or spirituality or different sectors, who within their group, the Elves of Flynn, who would they worship? And they said Danu, which is the goddess Danu that we are familiar with. Now, we can take that even further. Very similar to Melchizedek, that larger entity group, Danu is a very similar consciousness, not to Melchizedek necessarily, but in terms of it being just a larger consciousness of beings collectively. So one of the reasons they mentioned why they worshiped Danu was because that was their creator. So they knew that consciousness had created them. Now, how this ties into the A's, for the sheer fact that these beings are of feline cat lineage. Moving on to bees. Bees have a very interesting connection in general. They do have a connection to the Pleiadians also, and Pleiadians and native culture have a very strong and special alignment. Some of the native cultures that are known to have had Pleiadians incarnate were the Hopi and the Cherokee. And as you can see, it has a lot of native Pleiadian culture. Also, we find a lot of bees and a bee, negative or positive, in native culture. Bees have a very interesting mind. The government even loves the bee mind. Like, bees are typically known to have like a hive mind. They are very telepathic. Also, they are very, just the way that their mind works is almost like a portal in a sense. Bees have to really watch their mind, watch their energy. They also can be easily, like I said, the government loves bees. When we talk about government and MK Ultra and mind control manipulation, they love bees because of how unique and which their minds work. Like I said, if it's a hive mind, so they're easily able to receive information, and then when you're around other bees, transmit that information. They also have to watch being jumped or possessed, just because of especially if they're like heavily involved in drugs and alcohol, that makes it easier for possession and things of that nature. Bees really have to watch their energy because it's so unique in that sense. It's part of the reason why the government did want to work with bees and telepathic in ways of communicating information. A government agency or individual needs to transmit some information to someone else, but this is going to have to be some type of secret way in which of doing it. They are going to do it psychically, or they're going to do it spiritually or psychically. And bees, this is what makes bees so great for that, among many other reasons, and why the government loves working with bees. The way in which their system works, they do not process sugars and the synthesized sugar, so like alcohol and things of that nature. Their pancreas has a really tough time synthesizing it, and because of it, it gives their body like an euphoric high, making them very susceptible to addictions. And what's very interesting about that is we find a lot of bees in native culture. What is the most negative situation that is affecting their culture currently? It's alcoholism, diabetes, which goes back to the sugars. So definitely something to really watch for. If you have the AB, or specifically the B blood type, is, watch your sugar intake, watch your alcohol intake. They knew when they gave natives alcohol, they knew what they were doing. They knew what would bring them down. And it wasn't, like war, like gun, like, even though that affected them, it was the alcohol. That was their downfall, and is still their downfall to this day. And those individuals who were dealing with them knew that. They knew how to bring them down in a smart and very devious and very unfortunate way. Also with the bees, because we're coming from like Mongolia and we're talking about the migration of different races and Indian lines, we see a lot of yogis with bees. Bees not as susceptible to the things that I mentioned with the bees because they carry that A with it. So it kind of like gives that a little bit of a balance. A stronger endocrine system, as well as also a connection still to Pleiades and mermaids, water, as well as the star systems that I mentioned previously. For the aquatic family, so we're gonna find some like Sirius in there. We have some like African descent, those like aquatic beings that were associated Africa, specifically like the Dogon tribe, things of that nature, carry lines with O positive. Also Alpha Centaurian, Arcturians, like I mentioned, with its connection to Butes. So as you can see, we have not only our lineage here on Earth, but we also have our bloodlines and soul lineage as well. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, leave in the